Hello children. In this video lecture, I will explain you chapter of Snapshots, chapter 4, Albert Einstein at School, written by Patrick Pringle. Patrick Pringle is a famous biographer from whose book, The Young Einstein, Albert Einstein at School. This story is taken. This book was published in 1965. Patrick Pringle has written many other books like 101 Great Lives, Hue and Cry, The Young Dickens, etc. This biographical piece discusses the childhood of Albert Einstein, the famous physicist. The chapter starts with Einstein's disagreement on rote learning with his history teacher. Einstein wanted to get away from the system of education followed in Munich, so he decided to get a doctor's certificate declaring that he has had a nervous breakdown and needs rest for 6 months. Only his maths teacher admired Einstein for his brilliance, but before Einstein could get an appointment with the head teacher to present the certificate, he was asked by the head teacher to leave the school due to poor conduct. So he felt happy on leaving. Let's see the characters of the chapter. First, Albert Einstein. During his school days at Munich, he was not interested in the rote learning methods of school education and expressed his frank opinion. Nobody except his maths teacher recognized his genius. In the end, he was expelled by the school authorities. Mr. Braun, he was Einstein's history teacher who believes in the rote learning system of education. Eric, he was Einstein's good friend and a very helpful person. Elsa, she was Einstein's cousin who advised him that he will eventually succeed if he continues in his school. Dr. Ernest Well, he was a newly qualified doctor who understands Einstein and helps him by giving the medical certificate which he required. Mr. Koch, he was Einstein's math teacher who understood his genius and gave him the reference he wanted. The head teacher is there. He is an administrator who simply takes the disciplinary action required by requesting Einstein to leave the school. Let's start explanation of the chapter. Albert Einstein is regarded as the great physicist since Newton. In the following extract from the young Einstein, the well-known biographer Patrick Pringle describes the circumstances which led to Albert Einstein's expulsion from a German school. Let's understand the chapter. In what year? Einstein asked the history teacher. Did the Prussians defeat the French at Waterloo? I don't know, sir. Why don't you know? You have been told if it often enough. I must have forgotten. Did you ever try to learn? Asked Mr. Braun. No, sir, Albert replied with his unusual, unthinking honesty. Why not? The history teacher asked a question to Einstein. He asked in which year Germans had defeated French in the Battle of Waterloo. Einstein replied that he did not know about it. The teacher asked him why he did not remember about it. He had been told many times about it. Einstein replied that he had forgotten. The teacher asked him if he tried to memorize about it. Einstein replied in negative. Einstein replied honestly without thinking what would happen to him. The teacher asked him why he had not tried to memorize about it. I can't see any point in learning dates. One can always look them up in a book. Mr. Prawn was speechless for a few moments. You amaze me, Einstein, he said at last. Don't you realize that one can always look most things up in the books? That applies to all the facts you learn at school. Yes, sir. Einstein further told that according to him, it was not useful to remember these dates. Anyone could find these details in a book. Mr. Brown, his teacher, could not say anything for some time. Finally, the teacher spoke and asked Einstein if he thought that one could find most of the facts in books. The teacher further asked if he had thought that one could find everything in book and no need to memorize. Could it apply to all subjects? It was true for everything that he was learning at the school. Einstein replied positively to his teacher and confirmed that his thought was the same. Then I suppose you don't see any point in learning facts. Frankly, sir, I don't, said Albert. Then you don't believe in education at all. Oh, yes, sir, I do. I don't think learning facts is education. So the teacher further told Einstein that he might assume that Einstein did not think useful to remember facts. Albert replied that he really thought the same. The teacher further asked if Einstein believed in taking education. Einstein replied that he believed in education but he did not want to memorize the facts. In that case, said the history teacher with heavy sarcasm, perhaps you will be so kind as to tell the class the Einstein theory of education. Albert flushed. With a great satire, the teacher requested Albert to kindly explain his theory of education to the class. Einstein felt quite shy. I think it's not facts that matter but ideas, he said. I don't see the point in learning the dates of battles or even which of the armies killed more men. Would be more interested in learning why those soldiers were trying to kill each other. Einstein replied that he thought facts are not of much importance. He thought that it was not important to remember date of the battles. It was also not important to know which army killed more soldiers. Einstein wished to learn about why those soldiers were trying to kill each other. He wanted to know the reason of the battle. That's enough. Mr. Brown's eyes were cold and cruel. We don't want a lecture from you, Einstein. You will stay in for an extra period today. Although I don't imagine it will do you much good. It won't do the school any good either. You are a disgrace. I don't know why you continue to come. It's not my wish, sir, Albert pointed out. Then you are an ungrateful boy and ought to be ashamed of yourself. I suggest you ask your father to take you away. Mr. Brown, the teacher told Einstein to stop speaking. His eyes were without emotions but cruel. He said that they did not want any lecture from Einstein. The teacher commanded Einstein that he has to stay in the school for an extra lecture. But the teacher simultaneously thought that the extra class would not help Einstein. The teacher said that it would not help the school also. He told Einstein that he was an insult to the school. The teacher was not able to understand why he was keep coming to school. Einstein replied that he too did not want to come to school. The teacher said that Einstein was a thankless boy. He should be ashamed of himself. He advised Einstein to ask his father to withdraw him from the school. Albert felt miserable when he left school that afternoon. Not that it had been a bad day. Most days were bad now, anyway, but because he had to go back to the hateful place the next morning, he only wished his father would take him away. But there was no point in even asking. He knew what the answer would be. He would have to stay until he had taken his diploma. That afternoon, when Albert left school, he was feeling very unhappy. His unhappiness was not because the day was bad for him. Most of the days in school were bad for him. He was feeling sad because next day he would have to again go to that unpleasant place. He had a wish that his father would withdraw him from the school, but it was useless to make a request. Albert knew the answer of his father. His father would tell him to continue going to school till he completes his diploma. Going back to his lodgings did not cheer him up. His father had so little money to spare that Albert had been found a room in one of the poorest quarters of Munich. He did not mind the bad food and lack of comfort, or even the dirt and squalor, but he hated the atmosphere of slum violence. His landlady beat her children regularly, and every Saturday her husband came drunk and beat her. Returning to his house from school did not make Albert happy. His father had very less amount of money for spending. Albert was living in a room located in the poorest locality of Munich. He was not troubled by bad food, shortage of comfort, dirt, and garbage. But he did not like the violence that occurred there. The landlady of the house used to often beat her children, and every Saturday her husband come after drinking, he used to beat his wife. But at least you have a room of your own, which is more than I can say, said Yuri when he called round in the evening. At least you live among civilized human beings, even if they are all poor students, said Albert. They are not all civilized, Yuri replied. Did you not hear that one of them was killed last week in a duel? And what happens to the one who killed him? Yuri met Albert for a short period of time in the evening. Yuri told Albert that he should be happy that at least has a room of his own. Albert replied that Yuri should be happy that he was living among civilized people, though they were poor. Yuri said that those people were not civilized. Might be Albert have heard that last week in a fight between two people, one person was killed. Albert asked what happened to the person who killed. Nothing, of course, he is even proud of it. His only worry is that the authorities have told him not to fight any more duels. He is upset about this because he has not a single scar on his face to wear for the rest of his life as a badge of honor. Oh, exclaimed Albert. And these are the students. Well, you will be a student one day, said Yuri. I doubt it, said Albert glumly. I don't think I will ever pass the exams for the school diploma. Yuri told that nothing had happened to the other man, even he was proud that he had killed a person. He was only worried because authorities had told him not fight. He was also very upset that he did not have any mark on his face during the fight. He would have considered the scar as a sign of respect, of bravery. With a surprise, Albert asked if they were students. Yuri replied that someday Albert would also be a student. Unhappily, Albert said he had doubt about being a student. He thought that he might not pass the exam of school diploma. He told his cousin Elsa the same next time she came to Munich. Normally, she lived in Berlin where her father had a business. I'm sure you could learn enough to pass the exams, Albert, if you tried, she said. I know lots of boys who are much more stupid than you are, who get through. They say you don't have to know anything. You don't have to understand what you are taught. Just be able to repeat it in the exams. That's the whole trouble, said Albert. I'm no good at learning things by heart. Next week, her cousin Elsa came to Munich. Albert told her the same things, that he might not pass the exam. Normally, Elsa lived in Berlin. Her father had a business in Berlin. Elsa told Albert that she was sure that he would study more to pass the exam. She knew many boys who were less intelligent than Albert but passed the exam. Elsa informed that those boys had a method to pass the exam. Albert need not know anything. Albert need not understand anything. In exam, he should repeat whatever was explained in the class. Albert replied that that was his problem. Albert is not able to memorize things. You don't need to be good at it. Anyone can learn like a parrot. You just don't try. And yet I always see you with a book under your arm, added Elsa. What is the one you are reading? Elsa explained to Albert that he need not to be good at his studies. Anyone could memorize just like a parrot, but he was not trying to memorize. In spite of that, she always observed that he used to carry a book with him. Elsa inquisitively asked which book Albert was reading. Book on geology. Geology? Rocks and things? Do you learn that? No, we have hardly any science at school. Then why are you studying it? Because I like it. Isn't that a good enough reason? Elsa sighed. Albert replied that he was reading a book on geology. Elsa was surprised and asked if that subject was taught in the school. Albert replied that subjects of science were not taught in the school. Elsa asked why he was reading the book. Albert said that he liked the book, therefore, he was reading it. Elsa took a deep breath. You are right, of course, Albert, she said, but it won't help with your diploma. Apart from books on science, his only comfort was music, and he played his violin regularly until his landlady asked him to stop. Elsa said to Albert that he was right, but that would not help him pass his diploma exam. In addition to books of science, Albert liked only music. He used to regularly play his violin, but one day the landlady asked him to stop playing violin. That wailing gets on my nerves, she said. There is enough noise in this house, with all the kids howling. Albert was tempted to point out that most of the time it was she who made them howl. But he decided it was better to say nothing. I must get away from here, said he told Yuri. After 6 months alone in Munich, it is absurd that I should go on like this. In the end, it will turn out I have been wasting my father's money and everyone's time. It will be better for all if I stop now. The landlady said Albert that noise of violin disturbed her. There was already a lot of noise in the house because her kids always shout. Albert was about to say that most of the time kids were shouting because of her, but he decided that it would be better not to speak anything. After being 6 months in Munich, Albert told Yuri that he wanted to move away from the school and the city. He counted himself foolish because he should continue his study there. In the end, it would appear as if he had wasted money of his father and everyone's time. So he decided it would be better to stop going to school. And then, what will you do? Yuri asked. I don't know. If I go to Milan, I am afraid my father will send me back. Unless his eyes gleamed with a sudden idea. Yuri, do you know any friendly doctors? I know a lot of medical students, and some of them are friendly, said Yuri. Doctor? No, I have never had enough money to go to one. Why? Yuri asked Albert what he would do if he stopped going to school. Albert said he did not know. If he went back to Milan, his father would send him back. Suddenly he had an idea and his eyes started shining. He asked Yuri if he knew a friendly doctor. Yuri replied that he knew a lot of medical students, some of them are friendly to him, but he did not know any doctor. He never had adequate money to pay their fees. Yuri asked Albert why he was asking about a friendly doctor. Suppose, said Albert, that I had a nervous breakdown. Suppose a doctor would say it's a bad for me to go to school and I need to get right away from it. I can't imagine a doctor saying that, said Yuri. I must try, said Albert, to find a doctor which specializes in nerves. Albert told Yuri that thought suppose he had a severe depression and a doctor certifies that it was bad for him to go to school and he should be immediately taken out of the school. Yuri replied that no doctor would ever tell that statement about Albert, but Albert wanted to try. He wanted to find a doctor who was specialist of nervous system. There are plenty of them. Yuri told him. He hesitated for a moment and then added, rather reluctantly, I will ask some of the students if they know one, if you like. Will you? Oh, thank you. Yuri? Albert's eyes were shining. Wait a moment. I have not found one yet. Yuri told that there were many doctors of nervous system. He stopped for a moment and then unwillingly told that he would ask some students about it. Albert thanked Yuri. His eyes were shining with hope. Yuri reminded Albert that he had not yet found a doctor. Oh, but you will? And if I don't know if he will be willing to help you? He will, declared Albert. I am going to have a real nervous breakdown to make it easier for him. He laughed merrily. I have never seen you looking less nervous, remarked Yuri. A day or two at school will soon put that right, Albert assured him. Certainly he had lost his high spirits when Yuri saw him next. Albert replied that Yuri would find a doctor. Yuri said that the doctor might not be ready to help. Albert declared that the doctor would surely help. Albert would have a real nervous breakdown. Therefore, it would be easy for the doctor to give the certificate. Yuri told Albert that he had never seen Albert looking nervous. Albert assured Yuri that after a day or two in the school he would start looking nervous. Yuri met Albert after some days. Certainly, Yuri found him less energetic and less active. I can't stand it any longer, he said. I really shall have a nervous breakdown. That will satisfy any doctor. Keep it up then, said Yuri. I have found a doctor for you. You have? Albert's face lit up. Oh, good. When I can see him? I have an appointment for you for tomorrow evening, Yuri said. Here is the address. He handed Albert a piece of paper. Dr. Ernest Well. Is he a specialist in nervous troubles? Asked Albert. Albert said that he cannot tolerate this school anymore. He surely had a breakdown that would satisfy a doctor. Yuri said that he had found a doctor for Albert. Face of Albert started shining because of hope. He asked when he could meet the doctor. Yuri told Albert that appointment with doctor was scheduled the next day in the evening. He gave the address to Albert in a piece of paper, and name of the doctor was Ernest Well. Albert asked if the doctor was specialist of nervous troubles. Not exactly, Yuri admitted. As a matter of fact, he only qualified as a doctor last week. You may even be his first patient. You knew him as a student then? I have known Ernest for years. Yuri hesitated for a few moments. He's not a fool. He wants Albert. What do you mean? Don't try to pull the wool over his eyes. That's all. Be frank with him. But don't pretend you have got what you have not. Not that you have decided anyone. And not that you had deceived anyone. Yuri added. You are the world's worst liar. Yuri accepted that doctor was not the specialist in nervous troubles. Actually, he became doctor last week and Albert could be his first patient. Albert asked if Yuri knew the doctor since the time he was a student. Yuri replied that he knew Ernest for many years. Then he warned Albert that Ernest would not a fool. Albert did not understand. Yuri explained that Albert should not try to deceive Ernest, he should really talk to Ernest. But Albert should not talk about the problem he did not have. Yuri warned Albert that he would not be able to deceive the doctor because Albert get caught while speaking lie. Albert spent the next day wondering what to tell the doctor. When the time arrived for his appointment, he had worried over it so much that he really was quite nervous. I don't really know how to describe my trouble, Dr. Whale. He began. Next day, Albert was thinking what should he would tell the doctor. At the time of appointment, he was so worried that he was really very nervous. He told Dr. Whale that he did not know how to express about his problem. Don't try, said the young doctor with a friendly smile. Yuri has already given me a history of the case. Oh, what did he say? Only that you want me to think you have had a nervous breakdown and say that you must not go back to the school. Oh dear, Albert's face fell. He should not have told you that. Why not? Is not it true then? Yes, that's the trouble. Now you will say there is nothing wrong with me, and you will tell me to go back to school. Dr. Vale, with a friendly smile, told Albert not to make an attempt to say anything. He told that Yuri had already told everything about him. Albert asked what was told by Yuri. Dr. Vale talked about the nervous breakdown. He also talked about unwillingness of Albert to go to school. Albert was disappointed and told that Yuri should not have told that to the doctor. The doctor replied that Yuri should have told because that was the truth. Albert expressed to the doctor that then it had become a problem. He would say that there was no problem with him and he should go back to the school. Don't be too sure of that, said the doctor. As a matter of fact, I am pretty sure you are in a nervous state about that school. But I have not told you anything about it, said Albert, wide eyed. How can you know that? Because you would not have come to see me about this if you had not been pretty close to a nervous breakdown. That's why. Now, said the doctor briskly, if I certify that you have had a nervous breakdown and must stay away from school for a while, what will you do? Doctor advised Albert not to be so sure about his own opinion. The doctor actually thought that Albert was nervous about going to school. Albert said that he had not told anything to the doctor. His eyes were open wide with surprise. The doctor told that Albert had come to see him in an indication that Albert had a nervous breakdown. Doctor asked if he gave a certification of nervous breakdown with an advice to not to go to school, what Albert would do after that. I will go to Italy, said Albert, to Milan where my parents are. And what will you do there? I will try to get into an Italian college or institute. How can you without a diploma? I'll ask my mathematics teacher to give me something about my work, and perhaps that will be enough. I have learned all the maths they teach at school and a bit more, he added when Dr. Will looked doubtful. Albert replied that he would go to Milan in Italy where his parents stayed, and Doctor asked what he would do there. Albert replied that he would go to a college. Doctor said that without school diploma he would not get admission in a college. Albert replied that he would request his maths teacher to give him a certificate about his studies. He thought that such certificate could be sufficient to get admission in a college. He said that he had studied math subject quite well in the school. He said these lines because Dr. Vale had doubt about his admission to a college. Well, it's up to you, he said. I doubt if it will come off, but I can see you are not doing yourself or any more else much good by staying here. How long would you like me to say you should stay away from school? Would 6 months be all right? This is very kind of you. It's nothing. I have only just stopped being a student myself, so I know how you feel. Here you are. Dr. Vale handed him the certificate and the best of luck. The doctor expressed that the plan of Albert was not likely to succeed, but he was sure that it was not useful for Albert to go to school. He asked for how much time Albert wanted his recommendations for staying away from school. He again asked if 6 months would sufficient. Albert thanked the doctor for his kindness, and the doctor replied that he had recently passed out of a college, so he could understand feelings of Albert. Dr. Vale gave the certificate to Albert and wished him Good luck. How much? Nothing if you have anything to spare. Invite Yuri to a meal. He's a good friend of mine and yours too, I think. Albert had no money to spare, but he pretended he had and took Yuri out to supper. Isn't it wonderful? He said after showing Yuri the certificate. Yes, it's fine, Yuri agreed. 6 months is a good period. This way, you won't actually be leaving the school, so if the worst comes the worst, you will be able to come back and carry on for your diploma. Albert asked how much money he should pay for the certificate. Dr. Vale said nothing was to be paid. If Albert had some money, he should take Yuri for a dinner because Yuri was a common friend of both of them. Albert did not have extra money, but he wanted to give an impression that he had money. So he took Yuri to a hotel for dinner. He showed the certificate to Yuri and said it was really wonderful. Yuri agreed that it was good to be obtained the certificate. That way, he would not be actually leaving the school. In the worst situation, he could always come back to the school to complete his diploma. I will never go back to that place, Albert assured him. I am going to take this certificate to the head teacher tomorrow, and that will be the end of it. Don't forget to get a reference in writing from your mathematics teacher first, Yuri reminded him. Mr. Coach willingly gave Albert the reference he wanted. Albert assured Yuri that he would never study in that school. The next day he would take the certificate to the principal and that would be his last day in the school. Yuri reminded Albert to take the recommendation letter in writing from maths teacher Mr. Coach and he readily gave the recommendation letter to Albert. If I say I can't teach you anymore and probably you will soon be able to teach me, will that be all right? He asked. That's saying too much, sir, said Albert. It's only the truth, but all right. I will put it more seriously. It was still a glowing reference, and Mr. Coach made the point that Albert was ready immediately to enter a college or institute for the study of higher mathematics. Mr. Coach proposed to write that he could not teach more maths to Albert. Very soon, Albert would be able to teach him. Albert said that it would be very high recommendation. Mr. Coach said that it was the truth, but he agreed to write the letter in different manner. The letter was still an excellent recommendation, and Mr. Coach has confirmed that Albert was ready for an immediate admission in a college to study maths. I am sorry you are leaving us, although you are wasting your time in my class, he said. It's almost the only class where I am not wasting my time, said Albert. But how did you know I am leaving, sir? You would not have asked me for this reference otherwise. I thought you would wonder. There is nothing to wonder about, Einstein. I knew you were going to leave before you knew yourself. Mr. Code told that he was happy that Albert was leaving the school. He thought it was a waste time for Albert to attend his class. Albert thought that math was the only class that he liked, so it was not waste of time. He again asked, how did Mr. Coach knew that he was leaving the school? Mr. Coach replied, otherwise Albert would not have asked for letter of recommendation of reference. Albert said he thought that Mr. Coach would be surprised. Mr. Coach replied, there was nothing to get surprised. I knew it before he knew about that. He would leave the school. Albert was puzzled. What did the teacher mean? He soon found out before he had a chance to ask for an interview with the head teacher. He was summoned to do the head's room. Well, it saves me the trouble of having to wait an hour or two outside, he thought. Albert could not understand what teacher meant to say. Soon he came to know about it. He was called to meet the principal in his room. This happened before Albert could make a request for a discussion with him. Albert thought it was good because of it would save his 1 or 2 hours of waiting time outside the room of principal. He hardly bothered to wonder why he had been sent for, but vaguely supposed he was to be punished again for bad work and laziness. When he had finished with punishments, I am not going to punish you, the teacher said to Albert's surprise. Your work is terrible and I am not prepared to have you here any longer, Einstein. I want you to leave the school now. Leave school now? Repeat Albert dazed. That is what I said. You mean, said Albert, that I am to be expelled? Albert did not worry to think why he was called. He approximately guessed that it could be to punish him again for his bad work and laziness. He had been punished many number of times. Albert was surprised when the principal said that he did not want to punish Albert. The principal said that work done by Albert was very poor. He was not ready to allow Einstein study in the school then onwards. He wanted that Einstein should leave the school. Albert was greatly surprised and repeated, leave the school now. The principal confirmed it, and Albert again asked if he was being dismissed from the school. You can take it that way if you wish, Einstein. The head teacher was not mincing words. The simplest thing will be for you go of your own accord, and then question won't arise. But, said Albert, what crime have I committed? Your presence in the classroom makes it impossible for the teacher to teach and for the other pupils to learn. You refuse to learn and you are in constant rebellion, and no serious work can be done while you are there. The principal replied that Albert could consider it that way if he wanted to. The principal was saying everything directly without hiding his thoughts. He suggested that it would be better if Einstein left the school as per his own choice. Then the school would not need to expel him. Albert wanted to know his mistake. Principal said that because of his presence, teachers were not able to teach and students were not able to learn. According to him, Albert did not want to learn. He regularly disobeyed teachers. Teachers could not do their work while Albert was in the class. Albert felt the medical certificate almost burning a hole in his pocket. I was going to leave anyway, he said. Then we are in agreement at least, Einstein, the head teacher said. Albert felt the eagerness to show the medical certificate to the principal, but he said that he was about to leave the school. The principal said that at least that time they were having similar thoughts. For a moment, Albert was tempted to tell the man what he thought of him and of his school. Then he stopped himself without another word. Holding his head high, he stalked out. Shut the door after you, shouted the head. Albert ignored him. He walked straight on out of the school where he had spent 5 miserable years without turning his head to give it a last look. He could not think of anyone he wanted to say goodbye to. Albert wanted to tell what he thought about the principal and the school, but he did not tell. He controlled himself. Without speaking any word, he proudly but angrily walked out of the room. The principal loudly said to the Albert to shut the door. While leaving, Albert neglected his instruction. He walked directly out of the school. He had spent 5 horrible years in the school. He considered his time spent in the school as a waste while walking out. He did not look back to have a last look at the school. He could not think of anybody to whom he wanted to meet before going out of the school. It means that he was dejected, also, that he did not have any friend in the school. Indeed, Yuri was almost the only person in Munich he felt like seeing before he left the town. He had come to hate almost as much as the school. Elsa was back in Berlin and he had no other real friends. Goodbye and good luck, said Yuri when he left. You are going to a wonderful country, I think. I hope you will be happier there. Actually, Yuri was the only person he wanted to meet before leaving the town. He hated the town as much as he hated his school. His cousin Elsa had gone back to Berlin. He had no other real friends in Berlin. Yuri said goodbye to Albert and wished him good luck. He said that Albert was going to a good country. Yuri hoped Albert would be a happier person there. In this way, children, Albert has left his school and headed further for his studies. So now from this slide onwards, I have given you answers of textual exercise as well as extra questions from this slide. These are also important too. You need to write all these question answers in your notebook and prepare well. Thank you.